An entire engineered conversation thread, deleted by accidental input. No backups, no recovery logs, and no path back through the server. The only surviving artifact is this, a terminal 2D image file. The EXF data is empty. To a standard scan, it has no history and no metadata. Yet the semantic information on the plane is extraordinarily dense. We will prove that the lost operational context can be reconstructed using only the embedded visual and symbolic architecture of this 2D plane. In this framework, data permanence relies on rigorous structural visual engineering rather than server redundancy. This recovery utilizes the pi degree pivot, an emergency protocol where a terminal output object is forcibly reversed into an origin source object. We execute this by moving from 2D to 3D and back to 2D. We treat the graphic as a compressed volumetric mesh, requiring precise measurement of its spatial properties rather than simple observation. This method repurposes rendering algorithms, specifically shader logic, as a framework to filter and decode the semantic hierarchy. Every aesthetic design choice on the pane is a data structure waiting to be queried. The forensic scan begins at the upper boundary to locate the primary versioning ID. We apply the Caravaggio fragment shader protocol, using a high-contrast gate to separate gold data from the background. Shifting to the Rubens vertex shader, the scan identifies structural volume for indexing. The physical visual weight of these date arcs establishes the chronological framework of the recovered dataset. Using 3D rendering principles as data filters extracts the primary timeline and versioning history from the lost thread. We query the left perimeter vignette to pull the foundational historical anchor. This node acts as the source memory anchor, providing the context for the entire dataset without requiring a text log. Mapping the geographic anchors across the perimeter locates the data's intended local witness field. Cross-referencing external civic data confirms the bridge logic, connecting local identity to the metadata framework. Finally, the Rembrandt shader extracts human continuity and civic intimacy, illuminated by the warm horizon glow on the right. These spatial boundaries are hard-coded into the structural ribs of the graphic, ensuring the context remains fixed. Forensic data recovery depends on a stable internal truth return point. This axis is located in the center of the artifact, the Marin Engineering Studios seal. Within this seal, the gear, compass, and scales serve as operational markers for engineering, orientation, and balance. The Baroque DepthTest requires that this critical core remains perfectly legible against the dense maximalist background. Successful navigation through the depth test validates the pi core as the fixed axis from which all surrounding logic is reconstructed. We decode the system's built-in fault tolerance by scanning the methodology banner at the bottom. The line-sight signal travel security model dictates that meaning must be protected through overlapping symbolic redundancy. If the explicit text at the bottom is destroyed, secondary layers, like the red and green waveforms and the cultural text blocks, preserve the data. This visual redundancy ensures structural signal strength outlasts transmission noise. Semantic steganography creates a multi-layered architecture, ensuring the payload survives hostile formatting shifts. With the metadata mesh fully mapped and decoded, we observe the completed recovery. By mapping these recovered text and symbolic nodes into a structured ledger, we generate a master recovery packet. This allows the thread's operational intent to be reintegrated into a searchable digital archive. The catastrophic loss of the original thread is nullified through forensic visual engineering. Terminal state verification confirmed. Thought to ink, to vector, to pane, to seal. Challenge met. The file functioned as a high-density, fault-tolerant data storage medium. This entire exercise follows the Sailor's Creed, Line Sight Edition. These highly dense visual panes act as a critical, unshakable ballast against the inevitable, sweeping decay of our fragile digital networks. As long as the visual structure remains legible, the operational thought remains retrievable. We must design visual artifacts that can be natively reverse-engineered back into pure logic.